Everyone is talking about the most recent storm that is brewing around the cast, and whispers have turned into wildfire. According to reports, Ty has revealed something so shocking and explosive that even the most devoted admirers are finding it difficult to comprehend. A late-night video purportedly showing Evelyn and Chantel has unexpectedly gone viral online, and the ensuing commotion behind the scenes is unprecedented. Although the exact nature of the video is still unknown, experts believe it shows a moment that ought never to have been public knowledge. Its release coincided with Evelyn's efforts to repair her reputation and disassociate herself from controversies, which is what really set her off. By releasing this purported video, Ty stokes feelings of distrust and treachery. In a matter of minutes, supporters were divided on social media. While some accused Ty of going too far, others wanted answers. Evelyn then lost her temper in the midst of the maelstrom. Several versions describe the ensuing explosion as leaving the set in complete shock and the relationships between these women in shambles. Hey Kay, the question is straightforward now. What actually transpired during that late-night video? And why did Ty decide to make it public at this particular time? Like a spark on dry ground, the rumors around Ty's cataclysmic move started out subtly. However, the fire had spread to every place in a matter of hours. There was more to what she supposedly disclosed than a mere gossip. It was something that threatened to upend the foundation of relationships that were already tense due to mistrust, jealousy, and stress. Evelyn and Chantel's alleged late-night video was not, at least, not as it was portrayed, a carefree moment of friendliness. According to whispers from insiders, Ty's framing gave the impression that the meeting was intended to be secret, something that was intimate, secretive, and possibly treacherous. The response was swift and harsh when the tale initially surfaced on social media. Timelines were inundated with fury, memes, and queries from fans. According to some, Ty was being spiteful and petty, seeking attention at any costs. Others felt deceived by Evelyn and insisted that her portrayal of authority and control had been a charade if this was true. When anonymous sources indicated poor illumination in a few seconds of the purported clip, the emotions became even more ferocious. Quiet conversations and the distinct presence of both women in an environment that differed from the polished persona they typically gave to the public behind the cameras, the cast was flung into disarray. Although Ty had a reputation for stirring things up, it appeared that this time she had gone beyond creating controversy. A far deeper nerve had been struck by her. Having endured weeks of veiled accusations and subtle jabs, Evelyn eventually snapped. Her ire was directed not only at the leaked material, but also at the way it was being used as a weapon. She felt cornered and deceived, not just by Ty, but by the general air of distrust that now accompanied her everywhere. During a normal group gathering, the tension reached a breaking point. It's just another camera moment. Everyone's gaze changed when Ty entered. Everyone knew that something explosive was going to happen because of the audible whispers in the room. Evelyn, who was already pacing with her arms crossed, looked directly at Ty. Like a razor, her voice sliced through the murmuring. Her voice was shaking with barely controlled rage as she replied, "You really think you can destroy me with this nonsense?" Ty didn't flinch, she said calmly and calculatingly as she sat back in her chair and sipped her drink. "Destroy you? No, but expose you. Maybe." The room went silent, and all of the actors appeared to be too scared to breathe. Chantel, who had previously avoided contact, shifted uneasily, a mixture of worry and remorse visible on her face. Ty had gone farther than she had anticipated. The whole burden of suspicion now hovered over her as well. The words, "Don't drag me into this mess," were whispered by Chantel. When Evelyn heard it, however, her rage was immediately diverted. Evelyn yelled, "You think I don't see what's going on?" and pointed at Chantel. "Do you believe that I am unaware of the opinions that others have about us? You ought to have stopped this as soon as it began, but you failed to do so. You allowed it to develop. Now take a look at what's going on." Chantel made an effort to justify herself by claiming that Ty was the one who was manipulating everything, and that she had nothing to do with the leak. However, the harm had already been done. Evelyn's voice trembled between anger and despair, and her tone made it clear that this was more than a clip. The cast was held together by a tenuous web of alliances, trust, and image. Friends and coworkers on the sidelines were in disbelief, while others expressed sympathy and pointed out that anyone would lose their temper under such strain. Others muttered that Evelyn's response just served to highlight her guilt. The rift among fans online was reflected in the division among them. The story quickly took on a life of its own. Debates raged, hashtags went viral, and all of a sudden everyone had an idea of what the late-night meeting actually meant. Tai performed her role in the midst of the mayhem with unnerving ease. She didn't yell. She didn't speak louder. She just grinned, seemingly content with the chaos she had caused. She gave a cryptic but incisive response when asked directly why. She decided to bring this out at this time. She claimed that truth has its own timing, enabling everyone to speculate as to whether this was a matter of justice, retaliation, or pure amusement. The fact that other circle members began to distance themselves from the group only made matters worse. People who had previously been close to Evelyn started to turn away one by one out of fear of becoming caught in the crossfire. Secrets don't stay hidden forever, Jackie, who is typically outspoken in situations like this, said on the sidelines. A declaration that merely fueled the flames. A dot. The atmosphere in the room changed from shock to outright animosity as the night wore on. Unable to control herself any longer, Evelyn unleashed a physical outburst of pent-up wrath rather than a prepared move. Before anything permanent could happen, security and producers hurried in and pulled her back. But the memory of her yelling in front of everyone was already ingrained in their memories. A dot. Knowing that she had pushed Evelyn to the brink, Tai sat there unfazed and smiling icily. Chantel, on the other hand, sat in horrified silence as she realized her name was now associated with a scandal over which she had no influence. Everyone was left wondering how far this dispute was going to go in the ensuing thick, oppressive stillness. The outpouring of emotions, which seemed to have been building for years, was what really made this moment remarkable, not just the yelling or the accusations. Normally concealed behind a tough facade, Evelyn's vulnerability was now completely exposed. And Tai's ability to take advantage of that vulnerability solidified her position as the catalyst. By the end of the event, everyone was either in love or hate. Reputations had been damaged, alliances had changed, and the tension had escalated beyond repair. Tai calmly fixed her jacket and strolled away as if she had won a war, but Evelyn stormed out, her voice echoing as she cried, "This isn't over!" Tai had been planning all along. As they struggled with the aftermath of a night that none of them would ever forget, the others were left in stunned silence. After Evelyn stormed out, the atmosphere was oppressively tense. Uncertain of whether to console Chantel, confront Tai, or just act as if nothing had occurred, the cast members who had seen the explosion remained still. Chantel continued to mumble while slouched in her chair, her face pallid and her hands quivering a little. I took no action. I am not to blame for this. However, nobody appeared prepared to comfort her, not even her former closest friends and family. Everyone knew that being associated with this controversy, even in an unfair way, had the power to alter everything. A dot. But Tai seemed to flourish in the quiet she had engendered. With a grin that never went away, she slowly got to her feet and spoke to the assembly as though she had just finished a perverse sermon. I didn't make this up, she stated in a chilly, serene tone. Jackie, who is usually eager to join the heart of drama, suddenly broke the stillness by saying, I didn't force anyone into that room. All I did was shine a light on what people were trying to keep in the dark. Her confident tone sent chills down the spines of those listening. Tai, you like to cause trouble, but are you aware of what you just did? This is more than simply a mess. It's explosive. Evelyn feels humiliated. We're all caught in the middle of Chantel's name being dragged through the mud. Are you prepared for the next step? Tai cocked an almost amused head. I'm prepared. However, the true query is, are they? She indicated Chantel with her hand. Chantel's eyes were captured on camera crying. In an attempt to maintain her calm, she wiped them away quickly. However, her quiet was more powerful than her words. The repercussions quickly spread outside that room. Blogs and gossip sites quickly seized upon the news and began analyzing it from every perspective. May inquired, what was in the clip? Was it more than simply a casual get-together? The strain on all parties concerned increased as the rumors spread by the minute. Some of Evelyn's friends discreetly acknowledged that something about the situation didn't set well with her, while others attempted to defend her by claiming she was being singled out. Around the time the FW cameras were ready, the producers almost gleeful at the storm that was about to break. When Evelyn finally arrived, the atmosphere shifted. She didn't speak to anyone, didn't acknowledge the stares. She walked straight toward the bar, ordered a drink, and stood alone, her posture stiff, but her face expressionless. Chantel, sitting across the room, kept her eyes down, fidgeting with her phone, knowing every glance in her direction was filled with judgment. The silence broke when Ty strolled in, looking every bit like she owned the moment. Without hesitation, she walked to the center of the room and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "So, are we all going to keep pretending nothing happened? Or are we finally going to talk about it?" Her words cut through the tension, pulling every gaze toward her. Evelyn slammed her glass down on the bar, the sound echoing like a gunshot. She turned to face high, her voice shaking with anger. "You don't get to ruin my life and then act like this is some game. You don't get to drag Chantel into this just because you're bitter. You're pathetic." Ty's smile never wavered. "Pathetic, maybe. But I'm not the one who had to sneak around late at night. I'm not the one who left people asking questions I can't answer." The crowd gasped, the tension hitting its peak. Chantel finally stood, her voice breaking as she tried to defend herself. There was nothing to hide. Nothing happened. This is all being twisted and you know it. But her words sounded weak against Ty's relentless calmness and Evelyn's volcanic rage. What no one expected, though, is a moment when Chantel suddenly turned to Evelyn and shouted, "You think this is just about Ty? You've treated me like I'm disposable for years. Like my reputation doesn't matter. I've always defended you, but where were you when I needed you?" Her voice cracked, tears streaming down her face. And for the first time, Evelyn seemed caught off guard. The confrontation wasn't just about a leaked clip anymore. It was about years of resentment, about alliances built and broken, about trust that had never really existed. The room was electric, filled with raw emotions that no one could have scripted. People whispered to each other, stunned by Chantel's sudden outburst. Realizing that maybe the story wasn't as simple as Ty trying to destroy Evelyn. Maybe there were deeper fractures that had been waiting for a moment like this to explode. As security moved in, trying to prevent another physical outburst, the crowd dispersed in murmurs. Some left convinced Evelyn had something to hide. Others believed Chantel's pain was proof that she had been unfairly dragged into a feud that wasn't hers to fight. And Ty. She walked out with that same cold smile, as if she had just orchestrated the perfect storm. The night ended in confusion, heartbreak, and questions that only grew louder with every passing hour. No one knew how the women would recover from this, or if they even could. But what was certain was that the scandal had reached a level none of them could ever have imagined. The fallout from that explosive night did not fade quietly. If anything, the storm only grew louder as the hours turned into days. Everywhere you looked, people were dissecting every word, every gesture, every silence between Evelyn, Ty, and Chantel. Social media was flooded with clips of the confrontation, slowed down and replayed with captions like, "Watch her eyes here," or "Listen to her tone at this exact moment." Fans debated endlessly, some defending Evelyn as a woman unfairly, targeted others, insisting that Chantel's emotional breakdown was proof of something deeper. And then there were those who praised Ty for exposing the truth, even as they admitted her methods were cruel. Behind the scenes, the women themselves were unraveling in different ways. Evelyn locked herself away from the public eye, refusing to attend events, declining interviews, and ignoring the producers who begged her to at least offer a statement. Sources close to her whispered that she was spiraling, unable to trust anyone, convinced that every friend or ally might secretly be feeding information to the blogs. One insider described her as a ticking time bomb, pacing her home at night, replaying every detail of the scandal in her mind. Chantel, meanwhile, tried desperately to reclaim control of her image. She went on live, her eyes red-rimmed, but her voice steady, saying, "I have nothing to hide. This narrative about me is unfair and hurtful. I've always tried to be supportive, and now I'm painted as the villain in someone else's story. Well, some fans rallied behind her, others picked apart her every word, accusing her of being too vague, too defensive, not emotional enough. Her attempt at damage control only seemed to split public opinion further. And then came Tai. Unlike the other two, she seemed to be enjoying the chaos. She granted sly interviews where she didn't confirm anything but hinted at more to come. Let's just say she told one gossip host with a sly grin, "The clip isn't even the whole story. People haven't seen the real tea yet." Her cryptic remarks sent the rumor mill into overdrive, with everyone speculating about what else she might reveal. The producers of the show saw an opportunity they couldn't resist. They orchestrated a sit-down meeting, hoping to capture the raw emotions on camera and settle, or at least expose the truth. When the women were finally brought together in a controlled setting, the tension was suffocating. Cameras zoomed in on Evelyn's clenched jaw, Chantel's trembling hands, Ty's smug expression. The moderator tried to start gently, asking Chantel how she felt being dragged into a scandal she insisted had nothing to do with her. Chantel's voice cracked as she answered, "I feel betrayed, feel humiliated. I've always been loyal, and now I'm paying for something I didn't even do." Her tears felt genuine, but Tai leaned forward, smirking. "Loyal? Really? Because loyal people don't sneak around behind closed doors? Loyal people don't get caught up in late-night situations that look a little too cozy." Evelyn's face flushed crimson, her eyes burning holes into Tai. "You're disgusting," she spat. "You twist everything just to make yourself relevant. Chantel is innocent in all of this, but you don't care who you destroy as long as you're in the headlines." But Chantel surprisingly didn't look grateful for the defense. Instead, she turned toward Evelyn, her voice rising. "Innocent. Do you know how it feels to have my name dragged because of your mess? You act like I'm protected, but I'm the one drowning while you hide in silence." The room erupted. For a moment, no one could tell if Chantel's anger was directed at Tai for spreading lies or at Evelyn for failing to shield her from the fallout. The two women locked eyes, years of buried tension spilling into the open. Tai leaned back, folding her arms satisfied. "See," she said softly, almost to herself, but loud enough for the cameras to catch. "The truth always comes out." As the meeting spiraled, chants of betrayal and shouts of denial filled the air. Chantel revealed details no one expected. How Evelyn had once confided in her about loneliness, about needing connection, about blurred boundaries between friendship and something more. Her words were raw, almost too raw, and the crowd gasped. "You told me things you never told anyone else," Chantel cried, "and now I'm the one being crucified for it." Evelyn shot up from her seat, her hands trembling with rage. "Don't twist my pain into something it wasn't. Don't you dare make it sound like there was more than what it was. You know better, Chantel. You know damn well nothing happened." But the look in her eyes betrayed something, a flicker of guilt, or maybe fear that only fueled more speculation. By the end of the session, nothing was resolved. Chantel left in tears. Evelyn stormed out without another word, and Tai walked away with a smile that said she had accomplished exactly what she wanted. The audience was left with more questions than answers, and the producers knew they had captured television gold. You were outside the studio, fans and critics tore the women apart. Online hashtags trended for days, with users choosing sides in what had become a full-blown war. A Team Chantel battled against Year stand with Evelyn, while Tai supporters gleefully spread memes declaring her the queen of chaos. But beneath the noise, something darker lingered. Whispers began to circulate about who had really leaked the clip with. Some insiders suggesting it wasn't Tai at all, but someone much closer to Evelyn. The idea that Tai might only be the messenger, not the mastermind, made this scandal even murkier. And in the middle of it all, Chantel disappeared from social media for nearly a week, sparking rumors that she had broken down completely or even considered walking away from the show altogether. Her silence only deepened the mystery, leaving fans desperate for answers and enemies eager to fill in the blanks with their own twisted versions of the storians of the story. By the time Chantel finally resurfaced, the narrative had shifted yet again, and the story was no longer about just a clip. It had become a question of loyalty, betrayal, and who was willing to sacrifice whom in the name of survival. The return of Chantel after her silence did not calm the storm. It only poured gasoline on the fire. When she went live again, thousands tuned in instantly, hungry for an explanation, desperate to see how she would defend herself now that weeks of speculation had painted her in every possible light. Her face appeared on screen, calm but weary, her voice softer than before. Jay said, "I've been quiet because I needed to breathe. I needed to think about what my life has turned into. People are saying I'm guilty. People are saying I'm lying. But no one asks how it feels to be caught in the middle of something I didn't create." Her words drew sympathy from many. But the live quickly shifted when a fan in the comments bluntly asked, "Why were you in the clip with Evelyn so late at night if nothing was going on?" The question froze her for a moment, her eyes flickering with unease. She tried to explain that the clip was misleading, that the cameras caught a moment of vulnerability, not intimacy. But her hesitation was enough to spark a frenzy with viewers, flooding the chat, accusing her of hiding the full truth. As the live blew up, Ty jumped in, leaving sly comments under burner accounts that mocked Chantel's defense. Later, she openly mocked the live on her own page, saying, "You can dress up a lie in tears and shaky voices, but it's still a lie." She then hinted that she had more footage, claiming the clip you all saw was just part 1. That statement alone created chaos. Fans begged her to release it. Enemies dared her to prove she wasn't bluffing, and Evelyn reportedly panicked behind closed doors. Evelyn's circle claimed she was furious at Chantel for not being stronger in her denial, blaming her for feeding into Ty's narrative instead of shutting it down. One insider revealed that Evelyn snapped at her team, screaming, "She made me look guilty by stuttering like that. Okay, now they'll believe we really had something to hide." Those close to Chantel, however, painted a different picture, saying she felt abandoned and used, believing that Evelyn was letting her take all the heat while she hid in silence. The producers, seeing the drama escalating, pushed for another confrontation on camera. This time, they invited not just the 3 women, but also a few other cast members who had opinions about the situation. The scene was set for fireworks, and it delivered from the moment Chantel walked in. There was tension. She barely acknowledged Evelyn, keeping her eyes fixed on the floor. Ty, on the other hand, was glowing, ready to stir the pot. The conversation began with the moderator asking if Chantal felt supported by anyone in this ordeal. She let out a bitter laugh and said, "Supported? No, I've been thrown under the bus, left out to dry, and made to look like I'm guilty of something I never did. And the one person who should have defended me the most stayed quiet." She glanced at Evelyn, and the room fell silent. Evelyn clenched, her fists. "You think I stayed quiet because I don't care? I stayed quiet because I was protecting us, because the more I talked, the worse it would have looked. You don't understand the pressure I've been under." Chantal's eyes welled up, but her voice was steady. "Protecting us or protecting yourself, because I'm the one drowning while you hide in the shadows." The exchange stunned everyone, but Ty leaned forward with a smirk. "Finally, the truth." She said it, "Not me." She then pulled out her phone dramatically, waving it in the air. "And just so you know, I've got proof that this wasn't just innocent late-night talks. Should I play it now or wait for the reunion?" Gasps filled the room, and even the crew froze. Chantel's voice shook as she screamed, "You're lying. You don't have anything." But the fear in her tone made people wonder. Evelyn lunged toward Ty, shouting, "Enough! You're not going to ruin my life with your lies." Security had to intervene, dragging them apart as the scene spiraled out of control. Later, rumors spread that Ty never actually had more footage, but the damage was already done. Fans demanded answers, blogs ran wild with theories, and sponsors began questioning whether they wanted to be associated with the show anymore. What no one expected was Chantel's next move. Instead of waiting for Ty to release anything, she posted a cryptic message online. "Since everyone wants the truth, maybe it's time you hear it from me." Within hours, the internet exploded with anticipation. Convinced she was about to confess something explosive when her video dropped. It was raw and unpolished, filmed on her phone with shaky hands. She admitted that the clip looked bad, but insists